Welcome back to Sunrise 718 now. Housing update. Scott Higashi joins us from Prudential Locations as he does on a semi-regular basis. Now we got the year-end statistics. Actually, it's amazing how little things changed all through 2011.
Most especially for Oahu. Actually, there was a 4-sale difference on Oahu, meaning statistically it was a 0% change year to year. So speaking of this stable market that didn't really generate a lot of news and wasn't very exciting, that's exactly what happened in 2011 for Oahu.
And there was a little more change on the neighbor islands, but not a great deal of change.
Not a great deal of change, but there's some encouraging signs in the neighbor islands. And remember, back in 2008 and 2009 timeframe, those markets really took a big hit. So it's nice to see those sales really on the increase, especially in the Big Island, where you saw a 10% increase in the number of closed sales.
Another thing that we saw continuing through the year is a point that you've always made whenever you can, which is that you got to look at the individual neighborhood because some communities just do better than others.
No question about it. And in fact, one of the things we're building on our site is more information for neighborhoods. So if you go to prudentiallocations.com, a lot more information on schools, things that are important to folks as they're thinking about where they're buying a home. One of the key things, though, is inventory levels remain very, very low on Oahu especially, yet interest rates are also very low. So the demand, the amount of demand in the housing market is still really strong, and I think we'll start to see some, continued momentum in a lot of neighborhoods, particularly for first-time home buyers.
Now, I know you live and breathe the Oahu statistics. I look at the neighbor island stuff a lot because that's part of my job, and one of the things I've noticed over the years is that sometimes when it looks like prices on the Big Island or Kauai or Maui are going down, what's really happening is not that all the prices are going down, but the sales are shifting to the more affordable communities. Like there'll be more sales in Puna and maybe not so many in Waikoloa, yeah?
That's right. The spread of prices on the neighbor islands tends to be greater. You have a lot of resort properties, so those are much higher in price, especially on the Big Island. Out on the Kona coast, the prices are still really, really high out there and very healthy. But yet, in other parts of the Big Island, East Hawaii, for example, the prices don't move as much. So that spread often in the mix often causes the prices to be a little bit misleading when you look at the overall averages. That's why we look at the number of sales closed, and that's really what indicates the health of the market. And again, really good news on the neighbor islands.
Do you have any idea at all what's going to happen this year?
Well, I think that what we're looking at is probably more of the same. And although that doesn't make a lot of news, that's actually really good. When you look at nationwide, although sales went up a little bit, sales have been so poor overall, that's not really very good news. But here in Hawaii, we continue to see, a really stable marketplace, and that's actually really good news for homeowners and for home buyers.
Do you think, as many people do, that there will be an increase in foreclosures in coming months?
Well, it's hard to say. We do know that there's some pent-up numbers of foreclosures because of Act 48. We're going to see what happens with that, although even with the foreclosure activity before the act took place, it didn't really impact the market as much as folks thought. So we think that that'll still be moderated. We'll have to see what happens after this legislative session. Yeah,
well, barring a change, that sounds pretty promising.
I think so.
It's Scott Higashi from Prudential Locations. We do this about once a month or so, just to keep you informed. Here's Taizo.